Hey, what's up, Realtors Toolbox? Thanks for joining us again. Today we're going to talk about a very important topic with a very important person. We're here to talk about open houses. This is video 1 of 3, so stay tuned to see the second video and the third. We're going to talk about before, during, and after an open house. We know this is a big topic and there's lots to contribute here, but we want to start with some basics and then another day move into some advanced stuff. So here we are. Stay tuned. Today we're going to talk about open houses. Open house video number 1, before the open house. Today we're going to talk to an open house expert, Realtor Rich. He's going to give us all the great tips and tricks.
Absolutely. Well, super excited to be here. This is one of my all-time favorite subjects. I know there's lots of ways to generate business in real estate, and one of these things is open houses. And so I'm 100% convinced that anybody that's trying to build their real estate business can build their entire empire through the portal of open houses. So while there's lots of things you can do on social media and other ways to attract people to you, I like open houses because people like to look and you're face-to-face with people that want to talk about real estate. So yeah, very exciting topic. And of course, like Michelle said, we're going to talk about before the open house in this video, which is going to involve things like choosing the property. And even though it seems like any open house is fine, there are a few specific things that you can lean in your favor. It'll help you be more successful at your open houses. So you want me to dive right in on that, Michelle, or?
Let's dive right in. I mean, when you have an open weekend and you want to do an open house, you don't have a listing. Let's start there. You don't have a listing. Then what can we do to find a good open house?
Yeah, that's a great question. So quite honestly, I think the easiest thing to do is check in with some of your colleagues at your brokerage, people that have listings. They maybe aren't holding them open, can't hold them. A lot of times I get phone calls from agents that are saying, who do you know that can hold an open house this weekend? We've got a great opportunity. So I think checking in with the other agents is a good way to do it. And then another thing that you can do is you can jump on the MLS and you can start searching properties, and then you can check in with your colleagues that way. But you're looking for certain things in properties that you want to hold open to put things in your favor. So, but that would be how I would start, is with my colleagues that work at my brokerage, and then expand out from there, with other agents and people that can help connect you to agents that need help getting their listings held open.
All right. So let's just say you found a house, an agent is allowing you to hold it open this weekend. What's your next step?
Okay, perfect. So on that note, I'm going to jump back just a little. And I'm going to take a look at what are the criteria that I want to look for in a property. Okay. So I'm going to jump back, and then we're going to jump forward about what we're going to do to start doing some promoting and advertising and some of those things, preparing the house, making sure it's prepared, and there's a few other things. But I think the first thing that I like to look for, if I can pick and choose what I want in an open house, in a property that I'm going to hold open, I think the first couple of key things I'm looking for, one, the newer the listing is, the better, because it hasn't had the exposure. Now, the only time that I'm not as worried about how new the listing is if there's been, like, say, a $10,000 or more price reduction. That also can open up a whole new group of people that weren't seeing the property because they couldn't afford it. Now you're 10, 15, 20,000 lower. This is still a great opportunity to hold an open house, even if it's been on the market for 30, 60 days. So the best case scenario is I find a property that just went on the market a few days ago. The weekend's coming up in a couple of days, and now I've got an opportunity to hold that open. I like brand new listings because people have not seen it. It's going to attract lots of attention. So I'm looking for that. Then if I can choose whether it's near a busy street or not, I love to pick properties that are newer on the market and near really busy streets. So my goal and objective is to try and have a property that's if I can, pull traffic from two major thoroughfares with my signs. So those are a couple things I'm looking for, right? New listing, near busy streets, and then I prefer vacant. Certainly, you can hold a property that's owner occupied and the owners are going to be out and they're going to make the property available for you to hold it. But if I can hold the property open and it's vacant, then I'm in control of the hours. Nobody's being put out during the day when I'm holding it. And it gives me the opportunity to hold the open house longer if I want to. Now, there's different schools of thought on whether to hold a property, open longer or not, but I like having the flexibility of the hours. I want to be able to control that if I can. So those are a few things that I'm looking for. Then another big one is, if I can, I'm trying to choose the price point that really would be on the top of the bell curve, on top of the bubble. Where are most people buying? What price range in your market is that? Is it 400,000, 500, 600, 700,000? I want to be where all the people are looking because I want to get all the attention. I mean, the point of the open house, certainly for the seller, is to get buyers in there, create exposure, and get the house sold. But as a real estate agent, your job is also to connect with all of those people that come into the property that aren't interested in buying that property, doesn't meet their criteria, and maybe you can pick them up as a buyer, or maybe you get a seller that comes in, you can pick them up and help them list their home. So there's so many different angles and ways to collect business through an open house. So those are some other things that I, really like to look at. I want that price point to be just right in there where the hottest groups of people are coming in. I want lots and lots of exposure so that I have opportunities to talk to people and connect with them at that open house. So those are a few of the key things that I'm looking for, if I can put that in my favor. Now, that being said, any open house is better than no open house if you don't have any clients to work with. Yeah. And, we're going to talk about a little bit, later about, like during the open house and what hours to hold and some of this stuff. But I do like to tell people, I get asked all the time, what are the best hours to hold an open house? Well, my question is always, how many clients do you have that you're showing property to? How busy are you in your real estate business? If you're not that busy and your time is your own, then hold them longer, right? It's like casting a small net when you're fishing or casting a big net. The bigger the net you cast, the better chances you have of catching fish. Same kind of an idea. If you can hold it longer, certainly there are going to be some additional people that may see your signs that may end up in your open house, and you can pick them up as a client. And not to mention, we're going to also focus on getting other potential sellers to come into that house. So those are the things I look at that are key for me to kind of put all the odds in my favor. But if you're struggling to find an open house, any open house is better than nothing. And even if it's an open house that, maybe it's a $2 million property and that's a real high end in your market, it's fine. If you don't get a lot of people through, or maybe the property's been on the market longer, reasons why the traffic count would be lower, it's okay. It gives you a chance to make follow-up phone calls, work on your database, work on other transactions and things that you have going on in real estate while you're in the open house. So there's always other things that you can do with your time while you're in there if you're not overwhelmed with people coming in. So anyways, those are the things that I'm looking for in choosing a property. And I'm sure there's probably some other really good things, but those are just kind of my hot buttons that I'd like to put in my favor if I can.
That's a great way to start. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So you've chosen your open house. How are you going to get ready?
Yes. So I think the first thing, we want to make sure that the house is prepared, right? So this may be your listing that you're holding open, or it could be someone else's listing. And depending on how much time you've had with the seller to help them get ready to sell, curb appeal is critically important, and the cleanliness of the house, and the first impression that is going to be made on people that come into the open house. So if it's your listing, you'll certainly prepare your seller for those types of things well in advance. But maybe they're putting it on the market short notice. It's going to be a quick cleanup, or maybe there's tenants that are in the property, and it's just not maybe going to be something you can be in control of until you get to the open house. So I like to be prepared for anything. I bring light bulbs. I bring disinfecting wipes, towels. I sometimes even will throw a small broom in the trunk of my car. As silly as it sounds, I'll also bring a small chair, and I'll bring a small table also to help me set up my stuff. So that's all a part of being prepared. I bring those things. I'm going to bring a flashlight. I'm going to bring some toilet paper and some other little things that just could make holding the open house easier. But I want to make sure it's clean. I may want to wipe down the counters. I may need a broom to sweep off the front porch. There's just a lot of little things that you can be in control of that are going to take you 5 or 10 minutes to help get the property ready for the open house. Now, certainly if the sellers have had time to prepare, they've been instructed on things like decluttering, or if the property's vacant, then, all of that stuff's handled well in advance. But in the event that you get there, it's not your listing, and things aren't just so, take responsibility yourself and be prepared so that you can do a little quick cleanup just to help make it a little more presentable for the people that are coming in that you're going to meet. So
I think this speaks to showing up a little early, because you just never know.
yes.
And I've actually brought a mop before, and just done, and I'm not trying to be perfectionist on it, but just do a quick little thing in the common areas to, help it smell good and help it look good. And it only takes a short time. So those things matter. Yeah.
Oh, those things matter a ton. Yeah, that little bit of stuff can make a huge difference. And if there's any odors or anything, you may want to air it out a little. Certainly on the day of the open house, and we'll talk about that in our video on doing the open house when you're actually there. But sometimes it's good to have a little candle in there and some other cool things just to help, kind of ease the pain a little bit of anybody coming in. I've been in a few open houses that other people were holding where they had some obstacles like that to overcome.
Before your open house started, what kind of advertising were you doing?
That's great question. And I'll tell you, there's a bunch of different things that you can do. You can do Facebook marketing. You can boost your advertising. But one of the things that I like to do is I like to do a little kind of a pre-marketing invite to the neighbors so that you can invite them to come to the open house. And so I'll tell you what's interesting is it's a proven statistical fact that anytime a new property goes up for sale, when that property goes on the market and the sign goes up in the yard, the other immediate neighbors may or may not be thinking about selling, but the ones that are triggered now by the neighbor that is taken action and put their house on the market. So they're very likely to want to talk about selling, which is why when that listing goes up for sale, if you can pre-market the neighborhood, I like to pre-market 100 houses, but at the very least, I'll do 40. And that's literally just doing like 10 houses, each direction across the street, 20 houses across the street, and just invite all the neighbors to come over to the open house. I couldn't tell you how many times we've gone out and set up open houses, held them, taken everything down and left, and the neighbors never even came out of the house. They may have never known that we were even there. Now, while we've got signs out on the busy streets and we're catching the traffic that's already out there, it would be a little foolish to just neglect the immediate neighbors that have seen that there's a house that's gone up for sale. They're thinking about selling. Why not invite them over? So if you do that a day or 2 days before, you can invite them over. A little different than door knocking, which is can be a very successful strategy, but I like the idea of just inviting the neighbors to come over. And this is just during the open house, which kind of brings me to the fact that there are some different types of open houses you can do. You can do a broker open house where you're inviting lots of agents and brokers to come and see the property for exposure purposes. And then you can do even a neighbors only open house where all you're doing is just inviting the neighbors. You're not putting up a bunch of signs. You're inviting them over to see the house, almost like a little social event. Gives you a chance to meet and connect with them. And not to mention, sometimes people are looking for a home that's for sale in their neighborhood because they have a family member that would like to move into the area. So it's a great way to connect with other homeowners in the neighborhood, other buyers potentially that are in the neighborhood that are currently renting, and which just opens doors for lots of real estate, business for you. So, anyway, so that's actually another thing. Paid advertising can be good. Be careful with your budget and managing your money. You want to make sure that the things you're doing are going to get you the results that you need. The other thing that I like to do is I like to market with lots of signs. I recommend that you have about 15 to 20 open house signs. And then if you can, try to pull traffic off of 2 major thoroughfares. You're already going to be there for a certain amount of hours. You're already going to do some setup. So I say plan ahead. Michelle mentioned earlier, show up early to the open house. Take the time to put the extra signs out. It becomes like a mini marketing event. So if you put out 4 or 5 signs because you're really close to the busy street, what if you went around over off one of the other streets and maybe put 10 or 12 to pull people off of another cross street that'll bring in people off of the other busy street? It might help you get 2 or 3 extra groups of people in. And remember, it only takes one person that walks in that's motivated, qualified, and willing to write offers and doesn't have a realtor to make the whole open house worthwhile. So it's worth the extra effort to get people into your open house. So I like that type of marketing. So pre-market the neighborhood and do a great job with your signs. And then what about types of signs, right? I mean, plan ahead, make sure that you have enough signs. Look at a map. Do that in advance of the open house. How many signs would you need to make sure that you can get people all the way to the house? Certainly people will find the open house online. In our MLS, the listing agents will go and revise the listing to reflect the open house. But once that's done, you've got signs in the yard, you're pre-marketing the neighborhood, you're just putting everything in your favor to get lots of traffic in. And then there's other websites, things like Tour Factory, Craigslist. You can advertise on Instagram. I mean, what am I missing, Michelle? Is there some other stuff people can advertise on there?
I know a lot of people use KV Core to do some advertising, and they
Yes.
tie into their Facebook, Instagram, and even other apps like Waze.
Yes.
So it can show up on Waze, and somebody could drive by and notice it that way.
That's
There's a lot of cool
absolutely
technology out
correct.
there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And another thing about the signs, there's different types of signs that you can get. And it's a little side thing, but there's nothing worse than a super windy day to wreck an open house. So if you got small, lightweight A-frames, they're going to blow over.
Right.
I'm not saying you got to go out and spend, $3,000 on super heavy duty steel frames, but some of the A-frames that are made out of steel, they hold up a little better, or some of the ones that you can put into the ground, but sometimes the ground's hard and those little metal frames don't go into the ground very well. Sometimes we'll cheat a little and we'll bungee cord the signs to like a no parking sign or a stoplight pole, some of those things. But then as part of your advanced prep, you want to know your community. Some communities have city ordinances where they don't want you putting signs on the sidewalk. So sign placement, this kind of stuff also is important. So it's good to know that about your community. We know our community really well, and we know where we can get away with things and where we can't. And in the places where we can't, we also will lose our signs because there are community volunteers and people that come through and they make a sweep and they just pick up all the signs. So then you can lose your signs. So I like to recommend using the generic ones on the really busy streets. And if you've got nice, expensive custom signs with your picture and phone number and everything on them, keep those right in the neighborhood where the neighbors are going to be able to see them. They're out walking their dogs in the mid-morning and they can take a picture of your sign in case they want to call you later, so they're super effective in that way for branding, especially with your, if you can get some stuff with your logo and your picture on it, it really helps you, especially if you're in an area where you're also working that as a farm. So that's a whole nother topic, but anytime you can do open houses in your farm area, it helps you with branding because now you're pre-marketing the neighborhood and you're just getting more exposure. So you can do farm marketing and then you're doing open house marketing. People are seeing you. The more they see you, the more familiar they become with you, the more likely they are to use you. So
yeah, definitely.
I think that's about everything on advertising and marketing. I'm sure there's some other great ideas and hopefully people will comment and share some of that. But
Yeah.
And that's what I like to do on advertising. I like to be on the street where the rubber meets the road with signs and pre-marketing, inviting people to come.
All right. So once you have some advertising done, you're prepared the house, you figured out when you're going to be there, how long you're going to be there. What are your thoughts on holidays?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some people tend to prejudge holidays and think that, well, those might not be good days to hold open houses. But not everybody celebrates holidays, and not everyone celebrates the same holidays. And some people don't care about holidays. And I can give you one example. I had done an open house on Super Bowl Sunday one year, and people thought I was crazy. Nobody's going to come to an open house on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
And I needed to hold an open house. I was in business generating mode. I wanted to connect with people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to see if anybody comes. I'm sure there are people that are not interested in the Super Bowl and NFL football. And surprisingly, I was a little doubtful about whether people would come myself or not, but I did have 6 groups of people that came through that day. So it just goes to show. You decide what your plan is, and then you work your plan. So holidays, yes or no? How bad do you need the business? How bad do you want the business? You know, the more you're out there, the more chances you have of connecting with people that need your services.
Yeah, definitely. I did one on a Black Friday, and people came. It was good.
Absolutely.
It turned out nice, actually. I think it's very true what you just said. There are people who don't really care about holidays. So.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Another thing that I want to jump back into a little bit is, and Michelle, you and I were talking about this before we started recording this video, but you had said this to me once before, you are always interviewing as an agent for your next client. Yep. And that really triggered me and reminded me that everything you do in an open house is an example to other potential sellers of what they get with you. So you think some agents would say, well, we're really near the busy street. We only need 3 or 4 signs out. And that's okay. You are near the busy street. But when another seller sees that you've got signs on the busy street and then you've got another 15 signs over here pulling traffic from another area, they see you're going the extra mile.
Yeah.
Who do they want representing them in the sale of their property when they see that extra effort go out? They get a flyer because you pre-marketed the neighborhood. They see all these signs. They come into your open house. They see everything you're doing in the open house. So now everything you do becomes an example and a part of a presentation of who you are as an agent and how you'll represent them in getting their home sold. They get excited when they see the max effort going out on the behalf of another seller, and they may tell, their family members, hey, this is the agent we need to help us sell ours. Make sure we grab a phone number or a business card when we're in there, and let's make sure we connect with that agent. So I love that. And Michelle, one other thing that you said, and I have to use these because these are powerful, but everybody is always watching.
Oh, yeah.
So everything that you do is a part of your presentation. Even how you greet people when they walk through the door. Are you smiling? Do you have positive energy about you? Are you upbeat? Are you attracting people to you just because of who you are and how you're representing the open house? So I think all those things work in your favor in a big way.
You can always get somebody to put your signs out for you. You can always get somebody to put the stake in the ground and put that for sale sign in front of the house. You can get people to do a lot of things for you, but I never do it because I want to be out there. And before an open house, I get my flip-flops on because I don't like to wear those other shoes when I'm walking around on the sidewalks and putting signs out. I put something comfortable on. I go hit the pavement. I go door to door. I put comfortable shoes on, and I go and all the time I'm interviewing for my next job. You never know who, like you said, who's watching, who's gonna see you. So If you have some other young person.
Yeah.
Can you believe we're saying that now? Young person to put your signs out for you or to put that stake in the ground for your for sale sign, then who's going to talk to them?
That's right. And Michelle, I didn't really mention this earlier, but
Uh-huh.
There have been years when I personally have sat over 150, 160 open houses in a year.
Yeah.
I've probably personally sat over 1,000 open houses. I've supported probably close to 2,000 or 3,000 open houses in my career with coaching other agents and helping them. But it kind of leads me to probably the last part of the message for before the open house, choosing the property and covering through the things we've covered. And that is safety at the open house. It's probably the most important thing to consider over everything else, because nothing matters if you're not safe. And so I really do like it if a real estate agent will work with a loan officer or another third party that can be in the open house. It's nice if you can have the lender in there with you, because then the lender can help answer questions about financing. I mean, you could jump right to it. Sometimes we see loan officers in the open house with laptops. They can, if the people are motivated, they can run credit, take an application. They can do so many things right there in the open house.
Yeah.
But having a second person there helps to just enhance your personal safety as an agent. So that is another little thing to consider. And then if you are doing an open house by yourself, are you considering the neighborhood? Are you in an area that's, that you would feel comfortable, and it maybe doesn't even matter what the area is. Do you feel comfortable at all? You want to be comfortable and feel safe no matter where you're at doing an open house. Doesn't really matter if it's considered a good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood. It can be unsafe in any neighborhood. So I think situational awareness, knowing your surroundings, keeping a watchful eye out as people are coming and going, and pay attention. I had one agent that I had worked with and had coached at quite a few open houses, but I remember her telling me she did not feel safe in the area she was in, being inside the house by herself with people coming in from that area. So she set everything up outside the house,
Yes.
in the front of the house, and that way she was never alone with anybody inside the property. She was always outside the property, and that seemed to work well for her as a safety measure. But certainly bring your spouse or a friend, or there's lots of things that you can do to make sure you're safe. That's the number one most important thing, not of just like before the open house, but you want to plan for that and keep that in mind. But then during the open house, making sure that you are being safe. That way, when everything's all done, you were as safe as you could possibly be. It was a successful open house, and you're excited to do another one.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if you want to comment on safety, Michelle, but that's a big one.
And at the very least, if you can't find a lender, if you can't do a couple of those things, text a couple of people and tell them where you are. Tell them, I'm going to be here from 10 to 2. When you close up the house at the end, text them again. I'm done. I'm good. I'm coming home. And let a couple of people know, and maybe
that's smart.
Have somebody just stop in if it's close enough, or, think about things ahead of time for sure. It's a crazy world, and you never know. And you might be thinking, hey, I'm a big guy. I'll be fine. Well, I don't care how big you are or how tough you are. You against a taser, you've lost.
Yeah, that's right.
You against chloroform, you lost, right? And all they have to do is knock you out for a little bit and take what they want, and maybe take your wallet. Who knows? Whatever. Like, people are crazy. So just be careful. You don't want to have something happen to you for no good reason, right?
That's right. Yep, absolutely. Definitely protect yourself and be safe in your work, and and you'll be successful, in the whole effort. So I love that. I think that's awesome. And if we missed anything in this particular video, we'll fill in the next 2 videos to come. There's so much to cover in doing open houses, but man, it is such a great way to not just capture buyers, but also to capture sellers. And we'll talk more about that in the other videos as well.
Stay tuned for video number 2, where we talk about what to do, what not to do during the open house. Video number 3, after the open house. Stay tuned.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day.